Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew with the Market Mindset. Today, it's a real pleasure to be joined by Ron Bergmann and Brian Lentz, both professional geologists, but on their listing day with Relevant Gold. This is really particularly exciting for me because the thesis of this project is really exciting. And everyone knows I'm not a geologist, but enough that even I was like, wow, this is either going to turn people's on their heads or it's going to at least captivate imagination. And the reason why I was so drawn to it is because of the team, what they've done before, who they've amassed on the board as well to work with them on this project. So this is very exciting. Both of you, welcome, gentlemen. How are you today? I mean, I must be busy. You must be excited, but how's it going?
It's going great. Super excited. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us, Andrew. We're excited to be able to talk to you and kind of get the story out there.
Yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, I guess it's Wyoming, it's gold and silver, but we're kind of saying in a strange way, the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. So if someone goes, wait a second, what are you talking about? That's way up here. You're talking down here. So I just thought, let's just jump right into the kind of the thesis, and then we'll get to all the other pieces because that thesis on its own is just very compelling.
Yeah, definitely. No, so the idea is that we're building off of this Abitibi extension thesis. Ultimately, we started to connect the dots in the scientific literature that illustrate that the Wyoming province and the Superior province, which is what hosts the Abitibi belts, were connected at kind of this magical 2.6, 2.7 billion year mark. That's when the gold endowment and deformation happened in both of these regions while they were still connected. Later, you at about 2.1 billion, you have your tectonic rifting that moves those two provinces apart and rotates them to where they presently sit. And that's really the underpinning of our thesis and where we started to put our boots on the ground years ago, developing this and testing this concept.
Now, the reason why I also kind of put the caveat before there is that the background of the team and also Rob and you are co-founders of Big Rock, which is, I guess your first initial project and still ongoing project. Your team, and I don't want, people are always hard to brag about what they've done. You guys have done a lot. Your resume is pretty extensive, and you've got obviously a lot of success in mining. I think it's basically on the private side. You own mines, operate mines. You've had discoveries. This is your first foray, I think, into the public markets.
Yes, that is correct. So Brian and I have been serial entrepreneurs. We've co-founded a number of businesses in the industry. Big Rock Exploration is the first one we founded. It's a technical consulting firm, as you mentioned. And this is Relevant Gold is our first time we're taking a company public and making it available to the kind of wider audience.
So maybe give you a little bit of background because of an interesting story there too with like going to school and how you got... you attracted some of the people on the board and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, so Brian and I met in university in literally the field methods course where you had to get a partner first day and map campus, right, with a Brunton and your pace. And so we linked up that day and hit it off immediately and became really, really good friends right out the gate. And always dreamed of developing businesses together in the space, thinking that would be later down the road. Eventually, we went on to be independent consultants in the marketplace for a while, got a mutual client in Canada, teamed up, joined forces, and started Big Rock at that point with really big goals in mind, both from developing and building a team of experts in the technical space for exploration to service the market, but also to help kind of empower all of our ideas and things that we wanted to chase and really have the toolkit we needed to do that. And so that was kind of where it all started. And out of college, even before we graduated, Peter McGaw was one of our main mentors. So he edited our first resumes before we, ever went and worked in the industry. and he was a very harsh critic.
So, it'd be great to have. It's like, ooh, this is an excellent resource to have, but at the same time, like, oh, this is going to be humbling.
Yes, it is. It is. But that honesty served us very, very well in how we structured everything, how we approached the market, how we approached our big ideas and these big district scale plays. And so he's been kind of helping and following our career since the beginning. And so we're excited to have him on the board as well here with Relevant Gold, as well as some of our other really distinguished board members. Sarah Weber, she's doing incredible things in Vancouver, CEO of C3 Alliance Corp. She brings a lot to the table for us across the whole communities, ESG, as well as her geology background. And so, we feel really fortunate to have her on our board as well. And Ron Parrott, who rounds out the board with Brian and I. Ron's had an incredible amount of success in the exploration and discovery cycles in the publicly traded space. So he's led the discovery of millions of ounces of gold in Nevada. So we really rounded out our board with a group of folks that know how to take these things from concept through exploration, through discovery and beyond, even through production.
Yeah, I want to say, like, you've got a video out to a listing video. That's great, and we'll provide a link to that as well. Why did you go a direct listing? So there's traditional ways of listing a company, but how have you found it, the direct listing route? And you've probably had shareholders reach out and say, hey, why aren't you just going to Canaccord or to some other firm and getting them to list?
Yeah, it's a great question. And honestly, came down to one simple thing: speed to market. We have a really good thesis. We have a really good idea. And there was a pathway to list quickest by doing it ourselves. And that's basically what we did. And we chose that avenue. So we raised the capital, we got the distribution, and we're getting the company listed as we speak. And, the focus there was we were drill ready. We had permits in hand. We had the treasury full. We had everything we needed to be public. So we wanted to get that out there for the market to take advantage of as we're kicking off our drilling program, our initial drilling. So it was really a tactical plan that we kind of put together with the entire team and the board and all of management and said, we can do it ourselves. This is the quickest and fastest way. And also it preserves the most capital for the company. And so, our main focus is maximizing shareholder value at every step and doing whatever we can to do that. This was very clearly our best path to get that done and get, liquidity into the stock.
Well, speaks to that entrepreneurial spirit that you've had right from the beginning. And also, a lot of people will just say, listen, that's not my forte. I don't want to raise money. That's miserable. Like, just hand it off to somebody else. You're going to pay a price for that. But if you can do it, and whether that was a fun experience or not, you're able to do it. Or and that speaks volumes. It's tough to do, but obviously you were able to relay that story, and just to myself included, and be able to do it without, and that speaks volumes to, like, listen, you can do this. You don't need to go that route.
We're at the new start line, but yeah, it took a lot of grit and grind, and it was a massive undertaking by the whole team. Everybody was all hands on deck. We were all connecting to the network and making sure we could get the story out in front of the right people. We, made sure we utilized our strong relationships in the capital market and, with various banks that we could have potentially looked at doing a traditional IPO with, but they still had significant interest. So we did have a lot of that participation and support as we raised the capital. So it was a big team effort, and definitely thank everybody who's been a part of this journey from this point, and look forward to making it public so more people can join the excitement.
I just take a kind of a step backwards for anyone, because I do have a lot of generalist investors, and they might know, oh, I've heard of Kirkland Lake before, but tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like 110 million ounces of gold being found up in the Abitibi, up in that Kirkland Lake, or that area up there in that belt. So this is not a small type of thesis, and this is a district scale approach that you're taking as well.
Exactly. Yep. So our science has always been data backed. It puts us in these areas of interest, but our initial criteria to get into these areas are kind of have that district scale backbone, really needing to illustrate the potential to post a district scale opportunity. Because as we know in the marketplace, that's typically where we see the biggest and longest lasting upside, no matter what the commodity is. So we really focused on that district scale, and we've continued to chip away at that and amass a very large land package of ground, about 40,000 acres out there in Wyoming. And part of the beauty of it is Wyoming is it's rated number 2 for Policy Perception Index by Fraser Institute. It's one of the best places to operate, and so we're really happy to be there. And there's a lot of support locally, as well as we've got 2 permits in hand and a 3rd on the way. So really, that kind of evidences the streamlined opportunity in the state of Wyoming, which is great for us and Relevant Gold.
How is the infrastructure I mean, it's a lot of space, a lot of area, but generally speaking, how is the infrastructure where you're at?
Yeah, the infrastructure is great. There's a webwork of roads. We can drive right up to pretty much all of our sites. There's power within, anywhere from immediately accessible to 10 kilometers of any site. There's, it was a historic mining district. So the South Pass City and Atlantic City, Lewiston districts out there, those districts basically developed and there was towns developed around them, and those towns are still there. The Carissa mine is the kind of the more famous historic mine there that produced somewhere between, in the historic reports, about 150,000 to 180,000 ounces during its tenure. And that has now been preserved as a state historic site museum. So you can actually tour the entire Carissa, and they still have running power because they run the mill and show you how the whole thing operates when they give you the tour. So yeah, there's ample infrastructure. We've got kind of really, really great access. And we're really close to some major towns that can provide kind of everything we need.
Now, your flagship is the Golden Buffalo project. What's charging out of the gate here? It's a couple of 4,000 or 5,000 meter drill program. What's going to be kind of the first milestones that you're looking at driving this thing forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really critical to understand that this area has never been drilled. So we're at the Golden Buffalo site. They historically mined it in 2020 with a track hoe, dug a trench, and produced a significant amount of coarse gold at surface. And that really is the extent of the kind of surface work beyond our systematic exploration that we've done to really generate some of these strong targets. So we don't know anything about the subsurface. We have a really, really strong understanding of this, what the rocks are telling us at the surface and what we think that might mean for the subsurface. So the goal of this program is really to start testing the subsurface structural architecture and geology to vector towards one of these district scale opportunities, right? So we know we have significant high-grade gold at surface. We're trying to understand what does that look like at the subsurface and how is the gold interacting with the different structures, rock, and where do we need to vector towards to home in on a big opportunity.
How prevalent is this that you can see at surface? Because at the video, it's pretty interesting that you literally can just go pick up off the ground and be like, oh, look, there's some gold here. Like, it's always been told that all the easy pickings are long gone. You have to go out into the middle of the desert somewhere or up in the top of a mountain way out in the middle of nowhere if you're going to find anything new. To find something that's like visible on the ground at a high grade, that's pretty rare.
Very rare. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of the main reasons is, we're in Wyoming, we're up on the plateau. Brian can attest to this. It's 90-mile-an-hour winds out there in the afternoon. And you had a thin soil cover, basically covering the vast majority of these rocks. And over the last 150 years, that wind has continuously eroded and blown that cover around. And so there's a strong likelihood that the early prospectors may not have even come across some of these areas because there was a significant amount of cover. That said, there was a significant amount of placer operations in the late 1800s, early 1900s that go right up to kind of the boundary of the Golden Buffalo project. So they were placering, getting the gold out of the placers, but they hadn't necessarily identified a lode there.
I mean, right, working with Wyoming, I think you've got like a permit for 31 drill pads, but so you've got like your plan is set, you're ready to go. I don't need to ask any questions about the corporate structure because you're brand new. So it's a clean ready to trade as of say 15 minutes from now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so what else do we need to know? What are you guys really excited about other than getting drilling and finding your exact targets?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things, right? We are drilling. We started our drilling program. We are capitalized. We've got a full treasury. We're going to be really smart with our money and make that stretch as far as we can into the ground. We are geologists at heart. We want to see as much rock as we can and really understand the system. And so I think we're all really excited now that we've hit this major milestone of getting the company listed. We've got an incredible value proposition that we're bringing to the market. And so we're excited now to kind of finally push forward on proving the concept, right? And starting to test this concept at depth. It's a big thesis that starts to check the boxes at the surface. But as we continue to drill and understand more, it's really going to paint the picture. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, is to kind of see the results as they come in and what that kind of implies as it relates to this overarching Abitibi thesis.
Yeah, it's good. And this, maybe it's a bit early, but anyone that you've talked to, whether you're talking to like old mates from school or when you've reached out to, when they hear this thesis, when they look at this, what's their kind of general reaction? Is it like, or is it like, no, I think I see where you're going with this? Like, what's the general kind of feedback when you're talking to people who know what they're talking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of folks who know us understand that we're big picture thinkers, right? We've always in all of our ventures and projects, that's been one of the things that we've been able to kind of stand out with, the way that we look at these provinces or these districts kind of with a really big picture mindset. And folks who are familiar with the Abitibi, in the industry, that's like, okay, wow, this is, you guys are thinking about something different, something big, something significant. And it's a very interesting story. And back to Rob's point about the excitement, that really is feeding that excitement about drilling, right? I mean, the Abitibi has been drilled and mined for over 100 years, and they're still making new discoveries and having new finds today. So as we're just starting to plug some of the first holes in some of these areas, as a geologist at heart, it's exciting, not only with the thesis, but to be the ones to see the first core come out of the ground in these areas is also kind of a really unique experience and opportunity.
I mean, people forget that the drilling part is like R&D. If like you're a tech company, this is the R&D part. And if someone comes in with an interesting kind of take on it, especially if someone goes, "Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it," that's when it's exciting to go, "Let's test it." I mean, that's what's so exciting. And when people, either flat out can say, "No, you're totally wrong," but when you get that reaction of, "Ooh, wait a second, this does make sense." That kind of builds upon itself already. And even me, who's a layperson, when I first heard it, I thought, "Ooh, wait a second, I don't, like, once again, I don't know much, but it was easy enough a concept, and the way you presented it, where I was like, this is very compelling."
Yeah, well, and exactly that. The concept's big, but we're doing real science. We're proposing a thesis. We're testing that thesis through qualified methods, and we're the first to do that in this region, which is why there's excitement. But I think about the idea of what our old geology buddies think when we bring this concept to them. We brought this concept to some of the best in the industry. We even have some on our team, right? Dean Peterson did his PhD dissertation in the Abitibi gold belts and has a very intimate knowledge of those rocks and how the gold is occurring in those rocks. He's been out on the ground, putting his boots on the ground for us, now mapping all of our rocks and understanding how that relates, and working with our geology teams to identify prospective targets as we continue to march along this large land package. So we have that expertise in-house as well. And, that helps kind of when we are talking to some of the old geology buddies as well, as we keep peeling back the onion layer on the technical criteria as an analog to the Abitibi. And our job is to ultimately fail the idea. And if we can't fail it, we're succeeding. But really, as a scientist, we're trying to do negative exploration. We're trying to, poke holes in this thesis so that, we can ultimately prove the concept. That's true science. And we're excited that we're doing that. And we're kind of pioneering this out in Wyoming right now.
And I guess one, and maybe you could tell me it's wrong, but I think there's a plaque like at Kirkland Lake too, where the outcrop where initial kind of discovery was made, and also just to kind of remind people that like that system goes down 2 kilometers or so, or maybe even more. So like it's where not only is it vast in size and area, but this in theory could go down quite a bit if it's the same type of shearing system and everything as well, like as you mentioned with the thesis.
Well, that's important note, actually, Andrew. These are orogenic shear hosted deposits. One of the reasons we focus specifically on these at Relevant Gold is because they're the second most identified gold deposits exceeding 10 million ounces globally. And they do go down multiple kilometers, and they do consistently throughout the Abitibi. And one of the beautiful things is we look at kind of the geology and the geochemistry. A lot of the indicators there tell us that we're in the potential apex of a system, meaning the opportunity is somewhere below us, and we need to look that direction. And with the idea that these are deep-rooted, through-going shear zones, there's all the potential in the world that they could be very similar to what you see in the Abitibi like that.
And you've got all the check boxes. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's a new listing, it's the clean structure. You've got the team. I mean, lots of experience and lots of big people involved. And excited to go. And we're going to be watching. So this is very exciting. I'm sure you've got a busy week because this was a quick listing as well. A lot of work to get in, but to get your window to just go. We wish you well, and we're looking forward to any results that you guys get out in the next weeks, months, and wish you all the best.
Well, we appreciate the time, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here.